It was an ordinary morning in the courtroom when everything changed. The air was heavy, the whispers were low, and yet there was something different in the way people looked at each other. The name Judge Aaron was already trending online before noon, and by the end of the day, even people who hadn't followed the case closely were talking about the shocking new turn of events. When the transcript from the court session was released, it revealed something that legal insiders had been quietly hinting at for weeks. Judge Aaron had opened the door for prosecutors to bring more criminal charges, not just against Diddy, but against two of his longtime associates. It was the kind of legal development that doesn't just shift the case, it changes the entire conversation. For months, there had been speculation about how much more evidence the prosecution might have and whether the case had reached its peak. Some thought Diddy had managed to limit the damage, that the worst was over. But with the release of this transcript, that illusion shattered. Judge Aaron's comments were direct. In the document, he described how the case involved other criminally responsible participants. He even named some of them, including individuals who had long been rumored to have inside knowledge of Diddy's business and personal dealings. When those names became public, the internet lit up. Reporters scrambled to confirm identities, legal analysts started breaking down the possible next steps, and social media erupted with theories about what could happen next. At the center of all this was Diddy himself, once one of the most powerful figures in entertainment, now a man facing not only legal challenges, but also the slow unraveling of an empire he spent decades building. For years, he had been known for his confidence, his energy, and his ability to turn any situation into an opportunity. But as the legal walls began closing in, that same energy started to fade. Behind the scenes, people close to him spoke of growing anxiety. His legal team was working non-stop, and the cost of that defense was astronomical. Reports suggested that he had already spent nearly $20 million on legal fees, and that didn't include what he had paid in settlements or private arrangements. Diddy had always been a businessman, strategic, ambitious, and unafraid of risk. But now, every dollar he spent was about survival, not success. Legal experts explained that his appeal would likely take years, possibly 2 or 3, before even being heard. That kind of waiting game costs not only money but time, a resource even Diddy couldn't control. To make matters worse, Judge Aaron's original ruling was described as airtight. There was little room to challenge it, and even Diddy's top-tier attorneys admitted privately that a successful appeal would require a miracle. The public had mixed feelings about his situation. Some believed that this was the long-awaited moment of accountability, that powerful figures were finally facing consequences. Others argued that he was being unfairly targeted because of his fame, that the media and the internet had turned his name into a brand of scandal. The debate grew so intense that even late-night talk shows and podcasts started discussing whether celebrity justice was truly fair. Meanwhile, financial pressure was mounting. Diddy's empire, once a symbol of wealth and influence, had become a network of expenses. Maintaining multiple homes, paying staff, and covering legal bills had drained his liquidity. The music royalties and brand deals that once generated endless streams of income were now tied up in legal uncertainty. Even his luxury jet, which had once symbolized his larger-than-life image, was reportedly being rented out just to create some cash flow. Friends said that he was also worried about those around him, people who had worked for him for years, now being mentioned in legal documents. Some of them were reportedly nervous, afraid that their names might be used in future charges, or that they could be called to testify. In an effort to protect himself and his team, Diddy was said to be offering financial support, trying to keep everyone calm and loyal. But loyalty in a courtroom is a fragile thing. As all this unfolded, one question began to dominate the conversation. Would Diddy go for a presidential pardon? That possibility had been floated weeks earlier, with reports suggesting that he was exploring the idea through political connections. The thought of a pardon, especially one tied to political lobbying, set the internet ablaze. People debated whether a celebrity could actually obtain one and what that would say about the justice system. But there was a problem. Lobbyists explained that pardons don't work like that. They are not bought or guaranteed. A person can hire professionals to advocate on their behalf, but in the end, the decision rests entirely with the president. Those who had worked in Washington made it clear that the cost of such efforts could reach into the millions, with no promise of success. For someone like Diddy, already facing massive legal bills and shrinking assets, that kind of uncertainty made things even more complicated. Even if he somehow managed to get in front of a political figure willing to listen, there was no guarantee of a favorable outcome. And as legal experts reminded the public, a pardon would not protect his associates, only him. That meant others could still face prosecution, and if they did, they might decide to cooperate with authorities to lessen their own penalties. That, insiders said, was Diddy's greatest fear. Not just the loss of freedom, but the loss of control over the narrative. For years, he had managed his image meticulously, controlling what the public saw and how they perceived him. But now, that control was slipping. People who once stood by his side were reportedly reconsidering their loyalty. And with every new document release or court appearance, more information was becoming public. Judge Aaron's transcript didn't just name individuals. It painted a broader picture of a case that was far from over. The mention of multiple criminally responsible participants hinted that the investigation might still be expanding. Legal analysts on television began saying that the prosecution could use this opening to file new charges, potentially widening the case beyond what anyone expected. This development sent shockwaves through the entertainment world. Social media lit up with discussions, memes, and speculation. Hashtags about the case began trending again, even months after the initial story had started to fade. Younger audiences debated the cultural implications, while older viewers, many of whom had followed Diddy's career since the 1990s, expressed disbelief that the man once seen as unstoppable could be facing such a dramatic fall. For decades, Diddy had represented more than just music. To many, he was the symbol of ambition and success, a man who turned adversity into opportunity, who built a legacy from nothing. His story was one of triumph, resilience, and reinvention. But now, as he sat in a courtroom hearing his own name linked to potential new charges, that legacy was under threat. The fall of a public figure is never just about the law. It's about perception. It's about how society views power, wealth, and accountability. In this case, it wasn't just Diddy's fate being discussed, it was the system itself. Was this justice? Or was this a spectacle? And as reporters packed up their cameras for the day, one thing became clear. The story was far from over. The next few weeks would determine not only Diddy's future, but also how history remembered him. Would he be seen as a man brought down by his own choices? Or as someone who became the latest target in a world where fame no longer guarantees protection? As the courtroom emptied and the headlines spread across the internet, the question lingered in the air like a shadow. For the first time in decades, Diddy wasn't in control of the beat. The rhythm had changed, and this time, it was being played by the court. When the legal trouble deepened, so did the financial storm surrounding Diddy. What had once been a vast empire of music, fashion, and entertainment suddenly began to feel like a sinking ship taking on water from every direction. His companies, his real estate, even his brand identity, everything that once made him untouchable, was now under scrutiny. People close to him started to notice subtle changes. The staff in his offices had been reduced. The phone calls that used to bring in new deals were now more often about legal bills, settlements, and delayed payments. What had been a business built on expansion was now shrinking fast. In the world of celebrity, money has always been a shield. But as one financial expert explained on television, even a fortune as large as Diddy's can disappear when every month brings new expenses tied to legal defense and damage control. The team of lawyers he had hired was among the most expensive in the country. They charged by the hour, and every new development meant hundreds of hours of work, filing motions, drafting statements, reviewing evidence. The cost of keeping that machine running could reach several $1,000,000 a month. Add to that the loss of brand partnerships and endorsements, and it became clear that Diddy's income was not what it used to be. Several corporations quietly distanced themselves. Contracts that had once been worth millions were now on hold or canceled altogether. Public relations advisors encouraged companies to stay neutral, but in an age of social media, silence often speaks louder than words. Consumers had begun voicing strong opinions online, and no brand wanted to risk backlash by standing too close to a name that had become a headline for all the wrong reasons. Even his own products, music royalties, fashion lines, and investment stakes started to feel the effect. Distributors hesitated to promote anything with his name attached. Media companies debated whether to continue streaming his older performances and shows. It was a slow and painful erosion of a business empire that had once seemed invincible. Behind the scenes, Diddy tried to manage it all. Those who had worked with him for years described a man who still believed he could turn things around. He had always been the type to take control, to plan, to fight back. But this was different. The rules of public opinion, and the legal system were not the same as the music industry. Even simple actions were now complicated. Moving funds, making business decisions, or communicating with key partners. All of it had to go through lawyers. Every word he said in public was being watched. Every move could be used against him in court. It was around this time that rumors began circulating about his assets being quietly liquidated. Insiders claimed that certain properties were being sold or transferred under limited companies, possibly as a way to manage future liabilities. While none of this could be confirmed, financial reporters noted that several luxury homes connected to him had changed ownership on paper. For Diddy, the realization that his wealth might not protect him forever was a heavy blow. It wasn't just about the money, it was about legacy. He had spent decades building his image as a symbol of success and influence. To see that image cracking under pressure must have been difficult beyond words. Public reaction was divided. On social media, some people posted old clips of his achievements, moments from the peak of his career when his confidence seemed unshakable. Others used the same clips to make comparisons, contrasting the man who once told audiences to never give up with the one now facing a mountain of challenges. Older fans expressed sadness, remembering the golden years of his music and how it had defined a generation. Younger viewers, many of whom only knew him as a businessman, seemed less sympathetic, arguing that accountability should apply to everyone equally. In the middle of this storm, there were whispers about his inner circle growing smaller. Friends who had once been constant companions were suddenly quiet. Some were said to be avoiding public appearances altogether. A few even deleted old photos and posts that showed them together, trying to distance themselves before the legal process went any further. For Diddy, that silence was telling. Fame brings people close, but it also teaches who remains when the applause fades. Then came the question of whether more people might be implicated. The court transcript from Judge Aaron had already suggested multiple criminally responsible participants. This meant that anyone who had worked closely with him, managed finances, or been involved in certain events could now become a focus of investigation. For those who had once benefited from being in his orbit, the thought of legal exposure was terrifying. Some began hiring their own lawyers. Others were rumored to be cooperating with authorities. That tension within his network created an atmosphere of uncertainty and mistrust. In business circles, people talked about the Diddy effect, how quickly influence can disappear when legal risk enters the picture. While this was unfolding, Diddy tried to maintain some sense of normalcy. He was occasionally seen in public, often with a small group of bodyguards, appearing calm and polite. To the casual observer, he looked composed. But those who knew him said the pressure was immense. His health reportedly suffered under the weight of stress and lack of sleep. He was said to be reviewing legal documents late into the night, meeting advisors in private homes rather than offices, and constantly strategizing for what might come next. The appeal process, which had once seemed like a chance to reset everything, now appeared far away. Legal experts said it could take 2 to 3 years before being heard. In that time, his financial resources would continue to drain, and his public image would remain frozen in controversy. Despite that, Diddy's belief in his own resilience never fully disappeared. Those closest to him described him as someone who refused to surrender, who kept saying that one day the truth would come out. Whether that confidence came from genuine optimism or from a lifetime of success was hard to tell. Meanwhile, outside the courtroom, the media attention only grew. Every new headline brought a wave of commentary. Talk shows invited former employees and acquaintances to share their experiences. News outlets ran retrospectives of his career, framing it as one of the greatest rises and potential downfalls in entertainment history. The conversation wasn't only about him, it was about power itself. How much influence should one person have? How should society treat celebrities accused of wrongdoing? These were questions that extended beyond any single individual. For the younger generation, it became a lesson in fame's fragility. For the older audience, it felt like watching a familiar story. The tale of how success, no matter how grand, can fade in an instant when truth and consequence arrive. In one interview, a retired music producer who had worked with Diddy years ago said something that resonated deeply. When you live in the spotlight for too long, you start to believe the light belongs to you. But the truth is, it can turn off at any moment. That statement spread widely online. It became a quote shared in videos, reaction posts, and comment sections, a reminder of how easily fortunes can change. Meanwhile, inside the legal community, attention shifted toward the next steps. Would prosecutors use the judge's comments to build a broader case? Would new witnesses come forward? Would more names be revealed? Diddy's attorneys publicly stated that he remained confident and that he would continue to fight the allegations through proper legal channels. They insisted that much of what was circulating online was exaggerated or inaccurate. But even the most carefully worded statements couldn't fully control the narrative anymore. Social media had taken over the storytelling. On platforms like X, Instagram, and YouTube, creators dissected every new update. Some produced hour-long videos analyzing the legal filings. Others speculated about the impact on the music industry as a whole. The phrase "the fall of Diddy" began appearing as a title across multiple platforms, used both literally and symbolically. It reflected not just the story of one man, but a moment in culture when power and fame no longer guaranteed safety. And yet, for every person ready to write his final chapter, there were others who believed his story wasn't finished. They pointed out that he had overcome countless challenges before, from business setbacks to public controversies. They wondered whether he might reinvent himself once again. If not as a mogul, then as a cautionary figure whose life carried lessons about ambition, excess, and redemption. As one commentator put it on a late-night news program, "We may be watching a fall, yes, but we might also be watching the start of a long climb back. Time will tell which it is." That idea of fall and possible return became the emotional thread for viewers everywhere. By now, Diddy's legal situation had grown into something larger than any single case. It had become a reflection of how the public views accountability, power, and forgiveness. And while the courtroom drama continued to unfold, the real question remained unanswered. Could a man once defined by success find a way to redefine himself when success itself had been stripped away? The answer, as many believed, would depend on what happened next. As the legal storm intensified, one thing became clear. The story was no longer about one man. It was about a network, a system of connections that had surrounded Diddy for decades. In the entertainment industry, no one succeeds entirely alone. Behind every public figure stands a web of managers, advisors, financiers, and friends who help shape their legacy. But when the foundation starts to crack, those same connections can become the source of new troubles. Whispers began circulating about several names that might appear in future filings. These were people who had once been described as loyal insiders, those who had handled sensitive business or personal matters. Some were rumored to be cooperating quietly with investigators, hoping to protect themselves. Others chose silence, believing that distance was safer than confession. One of the most talked about possibilities was whether anyone within Diddy's financial team might face scrutiny. Judges often emphasize accountability in cases involving powerful individuals, and Judge Aaron's earlier remarks about additional participants had set off waves of speculation. Financial analysts and legal experts went on news programs to explain what that could mean. Some said it pointed toward staff members involved in contracts or financial transfers. Others thought it hinted at personal assistants or business managers who might have known too much. The most fascinating aspect was how quickly the public became invested in identifying who those unnamed people could be. Social media turned into a giant detective board. Fans and critics alike searched through old interviews, videos, and business records, comparing details and drawing conclusions. Entire YouTube channels dedicated episodes to discussing timelines, partnerships, and potential witnesses. For the older generation who had followed Diddy's career from the early days, it was strange to see his story dissected like this. Many remembered him as a young producer hustling his way up the music charts. Now he was the subject of digital investigations, a character in a real-world mystery unfolding online. Meanwhile, reports began surfacing that political figures had once quietly supported efforts to rehabilitate Diddy's public image. During his years of success, he had hosted charity events, supported youth programs, and appeared alongside government officials in campaigns promoting business and education. Those images were now being re-examined. Could political allies face backlash for once standing beside him? Some commentators said no. Associations from years past didn't mean complicity. Others argued that such relationships reflected how celebrity influence can shape politics. Either way, the discussion added another layer to the story. The possibility of a pardon, which had been whispered about in legal circles, became a major talking point. Although never officially confirmed, several media outlets speculated that members of his legal team had once hoped for executive leniency if circumstances worsened. The idea that a celebrity could receive special treatment, even hypothetically, reignited a familiar debate about equality before the law. Television analysts explained that pardons are rare and politically risky, especially when public opinion is divided. In Diddy's case, the ongoing attention made such a scenario almost impossible. The government would not want to appear biased in a case watched by millions. Yet the fact that this discussion even surfaced showed how deeply his influence had once reached. Throughout all this, Diddy's lawyers worked to shape the narrative. They released calm, carefully written statements that emphasized his cooperation and respect for the process. They avoided inflammatory language, understanding that their audience wasn't just the judge, it was the public. A single aggressive phrase could trigger a new wave of online backlash. This new phase of the story revealed a striking contrast. In the past, Diddy's success had depended on controlling his image. Every music video, every performance, every public appearance had been meticulously curated to reflect power, charm, and control. Now, that control had shifted to the legal system and the public conversation. He could no longer decide how people saw him. The emotional weight of that realization was visible to those who watched closely. In photographs taken outside court, he appeared composed but weary. His once constant smile was replaced by a quiet, neutral expression. His body language spoke of someone who had learned to listen more than talk. At the same time, a growing number of legal experts began analyzing the transcripts and rulings. They noted that Judge Aaron's language was unusually firm, signaling that the court expected absolute accountability. Phrases like criminally responsible participants were not used lightly. They indicated that the court believed the story extended beyond the main defendant. Commentators on cable news said this could lead to future investigations targeting people connected to past business ventures. Even old corporate structures could come under review. The entertainment industry, once proud of its secrecy, was beginning to look vulnerable. In response, other celebrities and executives began quietly reviewing their own practices. Publicists encouraged their clients to stay transparent. Accountants were told to double-check records. The message was clear. What was happening to Diddy could happen to anyone if they weren't careful. Beyond the legal and financial headlines, the human side of the story continued to unfold. People who had once worked with him began to speak out, some sharing positive memories, others expressing disappointment. The public watched as narratives collided, stories of mentorship mixed with stories of regret. What stood out most was how different the tone was compared to previous celebrity scandals. This was not a case of fleeting drama or online gossip. It was something deeper, a cultural reckoning about power, privacy, and the consequences of unchecked influence. Older audiences, many of whom had followed the rise of Hollywood and the music industry over decades, saw familiar patterns. The same cycle of fame, downfall, and redemption had played out countless times before. But what made this one different was the transparency of the digital era. Nothing could stay hidden for long. Every document, every post, every expression was captured, shared, and analyzed. The court of public opinion had merged with the court of law. For Diddy, that meant that even silence spoke volumes. His decision not to engage in online debates was strategic. He knew that anything said could be twisted. Still, the quiet did not protect him from commentary. Among fans, the conversation was complex. Some believed he was a target of exaggerated reporting, that the media had magnified his faults for clicks and ratings. Others said that fame comes with responsibility, and that accountability was long overdue. The divide was generational as well as cultural. In talk shows and podcasts, people debated whether the entertainment industry itself should be restructured to prevent this kind of power imbalance. Analysts pointed to a growing awareness of how celebrity culture shapes perceptions of justice. When famous people are held accountable, society sees it as a test of fairness. When they aren't, it deepens mistrust. Meanwhile, inside Diddy's camp, strategy sessions became more intense. His attorneys and advisors began planning how to rebuild his image, should the opportunity arise. They understood that rehabilitation in the public eye was possible, but only through sincerity and time. A few veteran public relations consultants suggested that, in the long run, he might benefit from focusing on community work, documentaries, or philanthropic efforts unrelated to his past businesses. Such a move could help shift the narrative from controversy to reflection. But as of now, those ideas remained theoretical. The next big moment came when prosecutors hinted that additional filings might be made within the year. That announcement sent shockwaves through the entertainment world. The idea that others might be named reignited the online speculation. Some people claimed to have inside information, while others fabricated stories entirely. This flood of misinformation made it difficult for the public to know what was real. News anchors urged viewers to rely on official court documents and verified sources, but not everyone listened. The story had taken on a life of its own, blending truth and rumor into a single storm. Through it all, Diddy's silence continued. Some interpreted it as a sign of guilt. Others saw it as wisdom, a refusal to feed the fire. In reality, it was probably both strategy and exhaustion. After months of relentless headlines, every statement risked becoming another headline. Still, there was something profoundly human in the quiet. It reminded people that beneath the fame, the wealth, and the controversy, there was a person facing consequences like anyone else. In one viral social media post, a fan wrote, "I grew up dancing to his music. Now I'm watching him stand in court. It feels like the end of an era." That sentiment captured what many felt. It wasn't just about Diddy, it was about the passage of time, the closing of a chapter in pop culture history. As the year went on, the conversation shifted from speculation to reflection. Commentators began asking what lessons could be learned. Could this moment change how power operates in entertainment? Could it inspire younger artists to build careers with more transparency and accountability? Even those who disagreed about Diddy's guilt agreed on one thing: the industry would never be the same. The illusion of invincibility had been broken. For now, all that remained was waiting for the next court date, for the next statement, for the next twist in a story that refused to end. But whether one saw him as a cautionary tale or a misunderstood figure, his influence on the culture was undeniable. The fall of Diddy was not just a personal collapse. It was a mirror held up to fame itself, showing that power, when unchecked, carries a price that even the wealthiest cannot always pay. As the courtroom lights dimmed and the headlines began to settle into quieter updates, a different kind of conversation started. It was not about legal filings or witness lists anymore. It was about what all of this meant. The rise and fall of Sean Diddy Combs had become more than a celebrity scandal. It was a cultural mirror, showing how power, fame, and accountability now lived side by side in public view. Older generations, who remembered when Diddy first burst onto the music scene in the 1990s, found it difficult to reconcile the two versions of him: the young artist full of energy and ambition, and the older figure facing courtroom scrutiny. For many, his career represented an era when music and entrepreneurship merged for the first time. He was not just a performer. He was a businessman, a symbol of independence and ambition. Seeing that image collapse was like watching a piece of history unravel. Social media changed the way the story unfolded. Every update spread instantly. Short clips from court, opinion videos, and re-edit interviews filled timelines within minutes. Younger audiences, who had not grown up during his musical rise, saw the story differently. They were less nostalgic and more analytical, treating the case as a modern example of accountability. Meanwhile, news programs that catered to older viewers took a more reflective tone. They discussed how fame had evolved over the years, from magazine covers and radio interviews to viral posts and streaming algorithms. The world that once elevated Diddy had changed beyond recognition. In that sense, his story was not only personal, it was symbolic of the new digital age. For many weeks, journalists revisited old interviews, playing clips from his early days. In one, a much younger Diddy talked about his dream to inspire others to rise above their limits. Hearing those words now carried a bittersweet echo. Time and success had given him everything. Yet in the end, the same drive that built his empire may have blinded him to its cracks. The people closest to him faced difficult choices too. Longtime collaborators began distancing themselves publicly, releasing statements about focusing on their own projects. Others remained loyal, saying they would stand by him regardless of the outcome. The public could sense that even within his circle, there was confusion and fatigue. When Judge Aaron's detailed transcripts were released, readers noticed the careful language. The court did not sensationalize. It simply documented facts. Yet in those facts, people saw the outlines of something larger, a reminder that even icons must live by the same rules as everyone else. Public reaction was deeply divided. Some expressed sorrow, saying that his downfall was tragic, especially for someone who had once inspired millions. Others argued that justice was long overdue. The debates filled talk shows, podcasts, and comment sections. What once united fans, the music, was now replaced by disagreement over his legacy. For Diddy himself, daily life had become quiet and repetitive. Gone were the red carpets and flashing cameras. In their place came structured routines, legal meetings, and reflection. Observers noted that his public demeanor had changed from defiance to humility. Whether that shift came from strategy or genuine transformation, only time would tell. In a small but symbolic gesture, one of his old songs began trending again online, not because of controversy, but because people were revisiting his art. Some said they wanted to separate the man from the music. Others argued that art and artist could never be fully separated. This debate showed how modern audiences wrestle with complexity. They can admire creativity and still demand accountability. The entertainment world, always quick to move on, began looking ahead. New artists, many of whom had grown up idolizing Diddy, used his story as a lesson. They spoke about building careers rooted in transparency and self-awareness. They wanted success without secrecy. And that, in a way, became part of his unintentional legacy. Legal analysts continued to break down every court development. They explained how complex the process was, how evidence had to be tested, how appeals could take years, how outcomes were never guaranteed. For viewers in their 60s and 70s, this level of detail made the story more accessible. It became less about gossip and more about understanding the justice system itself. Meanwhile, social media users began to reflect on their own relationship with fame. In one viral post, a user wrote, "We made celebrities larger than life, and now we're shocked when they fall." That sentiment resonated with many people. It reminded everyone that fame is a mirror reflecting both the best and worst of human nature. By mid-year, new documentaries and podcasts began exploring the broader implications of the case. Some focused on celebrity culture. Others examined the business structures behind the entertainment industry. In every version, Diddy's name appeared as both subject and symbol, a story of ambition that grew too big to control. Still, not everything about his legacy was lost. Many former employees and collaborators spoke about his contributions to music, business, and culture. They described a man with unmatched work ethic, someone who believed in pushing limits. They acknowledged that his choices may have led to his fall, but they could not deny the impact he made. In public forums, older fans compared his story to earlier figures in entertainment history, stars who had risen, fallen, and sometimes returned. Some said that if he truly reflected on his mistakes and used his platform for good, he could still find redemption in the years to come. Others doubted that the public would ever fully forgive him. The question of redemption became the heart of the discussion. What does forgiveness mean in the age of